Welcome to Stick at Night. I'm Hudson County Commissioner Anthony L Romano, representing District 5, which encompasses the great cities of Hoboken and Jersey City. I'm excited today because we have a young lady, Tyree Oredein from Left Turn Village, on our show. It's good to have young people that are involved in community activities. And so Tyree, welcome Tyree. So tell us a little bit about you.
Thank you. First of all, thank you so much for inviting me. I'm really happy to be here, although I do wish that I could have been there in person, but considering I have not yet been vaccinated, I'm still taking this COVID very seriously. So
No, I understand. I've been fortunate. I've been vaccinated.
Oh, nice. Thank you for doing that, by the way. So, but yeah, so the next best thing, right, is virtual.
Well, I always respect people's wishes for COVID safety, and whatever people feel comfortable with, and that's the important thing. We have to be so aware. I just recently in Hoboken lost a friend, a business owner, that I'm kind of shocked. He passed away at 42 years old. That did a lot for the people of Hoboken during the pandemic in giving away food. He owned 2 restaurants, and so unfortunately he passed. So I understand. So tell us about you, Tyree.
So about me, geez, okay. Well, my pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm Black, in case you haven't noticed. I have my doctorate in public health. Wow. In fact, today is the 6-year anniversary of successfully defending my dissertation. Woohoo! So excuse me as I pat myself on the back a little bit.
No, I admire you for that. I had for my master's, that was enough with my thesis, so I understand where you're coming from. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. So my doctorate is in public health, and I, for about 13 years, when I first came to Jersey to start my doctorate program at Rutgers, I started working with Hudson Pride Center, which well, that's how I know you. That's where I met you. And Hudson Pride, for those who don't know, it's an LGBT organization, social service provider, and it does a lot of work with LGBT youth, the trans community. They do a lot of work with HIV prevention, people who are living with HIV. And so for 13 years, I worked very closely with the youth program, as well as doing a lot of trainings, cultural competency and LGBT sensitivity trainings for schools, for social service providers, for health providers, law enforcement, pretty much anybody who will listen, anybody who can get, just to try to make safe and equitable spaces for LGBTQ community, and specifically LGBTQ people of color, because there's a whole additional layer of oppression and marginalization that affects that community.
Well, and then Tyree, now do you impact Hudson County at all? Where are you based out of?
So right now, my apartment is in South River, but I do all of everywhere. Like I do all over. And I've done a lot of work with like Jersey City. I've done some work with Hoboken in the past, like Hoboken Police Department. So yeah, and anyone who wants my services, they can come find me. And I do have like a soft spot in my heart for Jersey City because I've worked there so long. We were right there in Journal Square, and then we moved from Journal Square to Price Hospital. So I was always in the schools, in Ferris High School. I was in Schneider High School, Lincoln, Dickinson.
How about Hoboken High? I'm proud to hear you were working with the Hoboken Police Department and or the other schools. Ferris is kind of special to my heart. My father is a graduate of Ferris High School, and we just helped last fall the baseball coach raise funds for their baseball team because there wasn't enough money in the budget. So I'm glad to hear you're involved with those institutions, and also Hudson County Pride. I think we have a mutual friend. They're energetic, exciting president. Tell us.
Yeah, so Hudson Pride, and Liz Shadle.
Oh, awesome, awesome lady.
And I actually officiated her wedding. So when she and Franny got married, I was the one who married them.
I know you
That's
bumped
just
me off. I was supposed to do it, I thought, but I told I was second place. So I was kind of like, oh, okay.
no,
But you,
well,
so
maybe if I
you
get
work
married.
with Liz.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
tell us
And I still,
tell us some of the biggest problems that you see that the LGBTQ community faces in Hudson
well,
County.
there's the obvious discrimination, and there's a lot of health disparities. Unfortunately, because a lot of people consider the LGBT community still as something other. I mean, there's still a lot of heteronormativity. There's still a lot of cis normativity. So if somebody is a member of the community, they constantly have to come out because it's just assumed that somebody is straight. It's assumed that somebody is cisgender. And so chipping away at those norms would be, well, one of the first things to do to get rid of some of that.
Tyree, I'm just going to take a break. I'm interested when you come back. We'll be right back with Stick at Night after our commercial break. Thank you.
We have to be able to police ourselves because we don't want anybody to tarnish our badge.
When internal affairs complaints are not handled properly, the public may believe that most officers commit crimes, when in fact that's not true. Most officers are professional. Most officers do not commit crimes.
If complaints aren't taken properly and the community that we serve doesn't have a trust in the police department, I mean, there has to be legitimacy. If the community doesn't trust the police, how could we effectively serve them? And by having a really comprehensive internal affairs unit that handles the complaints properly and people have trust in the system, it enables us to do our entire job as a police department much better.
We need the community as much as they need us. So that citizen that has lost trust in the community could be a very important witness for us tomorrow.
Welcome back to Stick at Night. I'm your Hudson County Commissioner, Anthony L Romano. Let's continue our discussion with the wonderful Tyree Oredein from Left Turn Village. Tyree, go ahead, continue.
Yeah.
Very interesting what you were saying.
Yeah, so just for one, trying to normalize the LGBTQ community, LGBTQ individuals, and making people aware of the issues that the community is facing. Everything from medical providers who don't understand that there are disparities facing the community. They're not familiar with them. In fact, a lot of the members of the community are not familiar with the disparities that are affecting them. We know that LGBT individuals are more likely to suffer from substance use, from depression, from homelessness. And I did some trainings for a shelter in Hoboken to help them understand some of the needs that their clients have, and how to make it a safer space, how to make it just how to be respectful, that understanding people's pronouns, using the pronouns that they tell you to use is important, and not just saying, oh, well, you look it. So sometimes you see somebody and you might assume their gender. Like you might look at me and assume female. In that case, you would happen to be correct because I identify as a woman. But there's other people who look exactly like me who identify as male or who identify as non-binary. And so regardless of what you think they look like or what you think they should be called, they're the ones who get to tell you who they are, right? So I tell you I'm she. I say I'm she, then you say she, her, hers, right? But oftentimes in social service circles, and it's just like, if you're not familiar with that, if a lot of us grew up in very homophobic, transphobic societies. And even if you don't intend to do harm, it doesn't mean that there's no harm being done. So helping people understand the importance of respecting people's identities, helping people understand what the letters mean, what the identities are, helping people understand that just because somebody is gay doesn't mean that they're going to be hitting on you. Because a lot of times, people fear that, oh, somebody's going to hit on me, or they're going to try to turn me out.
It's funny you said that. Some people do think like that.
Yeah, in fact, I used to think like that a long time ago. ages and ages ago. But, I mean, I grew up in Jamaica, Queens, this little Black girl from Jamaica, Queens, and homophobia runs rampant, I mean, and so I didn't know anything about the LGBTQ community. All I knew was things like, what's that show? In Living Color, where it was men on film and it was two snaps in a circle, right? So the LGBTQ community was just something for entertainment purposes. Which is unfortunately what happens with a lot of marginalized communities. They get either ignored or they're consumed only for entertainment, to make fun of, or to dance for me sort of thing, and so it's dehumanizing. And this adds to the otherizing of the LGBTQ community. It adds to the otherizing of BIPOC communities. It adds to the otherizing. Well, that's kind of what's happening now with the Asian community, with the anti-Asian hate crimes, because we, in general, as a collective, don't see the Asian community as a part of our community. We see the Asian community as something other, dehumanizing, and we only see the stereotypes. And unfortunately, there's this mob mentality. And if you don't take the time to understand that, hey, the Asian community is just like other communities, except they hail from a different region of the world. That's the only thing, right?
Yeah, I attribute a lot of that. I think of my own perspective from my life. It's how you're raised, and
Yep.
also the diverse community that you are raised in. When you've been around people of different color, people of different cultures, people of different races, I think that it's more of an understanding. I know as a young police officer, for some other police officers to understand that there was a difference between the Chinese culture and the Japanese culture, which there is a big
Sure.
difference. And a lot of people, because they have not grown up around it to understand it, and the fact that for many people wouldn't understand, for the Philippines, were a part for many years of American territory. And when there was a dearth of nursing shortage, it was the Filipinas that stepped in here, and Filipinos, to take up that slack and to perform those important positions. So I think that has a lot to do with it. When you work at a facility, you mentioned police departments. What do you exactly do, Tyree? And if we have to cut for a commercial break, as soon as we come back, you can continue. But
Sure.
just please tell us what you could do.
So I've done some sensitivity trainings. So there was the LGBTQ sensitivity, of course, but also with respect to BIPOCs, and helping police officers
Tyree, one
understand.
second. We're going to go off for a break, and we'll come right back to Stick at Night.
Hudson TMA reminds you that a bicycle is considered a vehicle. When you ride a bike, you must obey the rules of the road.
Ride single file in the same direction as traffic. Obey traffic signs and signals. Signal your turns and look behind you before you turn. And always stay alert.
Welcome back to Stick at Night. I'm Commissioner Romano, in discussion with Tyree on this very important subject that is impacting on our society today. Tyree, please continue.
So with the police department, and I've also done with the juvenile, juvenile detention
Center?
like those. Yeah, well, yes, definitely juvenile detention centers, but the New Jersey Juvenile Detention Association, that's what it's called. So, the corrections officers that are in the juvenile detention centers. And again, with the Hoboken Police Department when I was with Hudson Pride. And what I talked to them about was cultural competency. So understanding how some actions can be considered harmful or dangerous, helping them understand the LGBTQ community, helping them to understand the Black community, Black and Brown community, in fact, because obviously there's a lot of tensions between the police and those communities, the police and the LGBTQ community, the police and the Black community, and helping them understand the roots of why those tensions exist. And so it's not in any way to disparage the police department. It's not in any way to say that all cops are bad. It's not in any way to say that, we don't need police officers, but it's trying to get police officers to understand where the other side is coming from, to help them understand that there's power that they have and the privileges that they have, that even led them to those positions where they are, and how they're misunderstanding, or if they're not familiar with the community, if they don't understand certain nuances within the cultures in the communities that they're serving, and they're in fact not serving them. They're in fact going to be doing a disservice or going to be doing harm. So it's a matter of getting them to understand how to more effectively interact with the community, and how to be, and how to be more of an ally while they're policing. So, I mean, they're not easy conversations to have, but they're necessary.
And do you still work with Hudson Pride?
And that's part of what we do. I do work with them, not on as often as I would like, but I have to say that when I was with Hudson Pride, oh my God, I loved it there. I absolutely loved it there. You know how people would say, "Oh, thank God it's Friday. Oh, I can't wait to get out of here. It's Friday." That was never my experience with Hudson Pride. And I remember whenever my birthday would roll around, people would ask me like, so are you taking off work for your birthday? And I'm like, no, I'm going to work. It's my birthday. That's where I wanted to be. That's how much I loved working with Hudson Pride.
Well, I think Liz has
but yeah,
created
so I still do.
Liz has created an atmosphere that makes people feel comfortable. It's not one that is abrasive. I think that she has tried so sincerely to reach out to the mainstream community. I think that she has given so much around the holidays to those that are in need. So, and I think the person makes the difference. And Liz has given a sincere energy to reach out to people.
Very much so. And I remember when Liz started, and as she was climbing the ranks, and you just saw her dedication to the organization and to the community as a whole. And I have a great deal of respect and admiration and love for Liz. That's my girl.
Tyree, before we forget, if someone needs your assistance and they're watching this program, how do they get in touch with you?
Oh, easy. They can go to leftturnvillage.com. So LEFTTURNVILLAGE.com. And or you could send an email to leftturnvillage@gmail.com.
Good. And then when things get better with the pandemic, or if you get vaccinated, will you be coming to Hudson County in person?
Oh yeah, definitely. As soon as it's a little bit safer, I would, I told you, I would have been there this morning. I would be right next to you if I had been vaccinated. But yes, I will definitely be doing in-person workshops, in-person trainings, in-person interviews, hint, hint, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. So hopefully I'll be back.
Anytime you need me to work together, or, I'd be glad to assist you in any way. Do you work with the superintendents of schools per se, or just particular schools?
It depends. So I've worked for Montclair, for example, I was working with the superintendent. In Jersey City, I was more just working with individual schools, but it varies. So however people contact me and whatever people are looking for, that's where I fit in. I get in where I fit in.
Do you think that the biggest feeling of disconnect in the LGBTQ community is in the youth or in the older segment of the group?
Wait, you mean the biggest disconnect with respect to?
Reaching out, to feel not accepted But we're going to continue with that answer from you right after this commercial break. We're at Stick at Night with Commissioner Romano.
Voting by mail has never been easier. Just follow these steps to ensure your vote will be counted. Open your envelope. You will find your certificate, return envelope, and official ballot. When casting your ballot, use only a pencil, black, or blue ink, not red. Completely fill in the oval to the right of each selection. When writing in, do not repeat a name printed on the ballot. If torn or damaged, your vote will not be counted. Fold your ballot and place it in the pocket of the certificate before sealing it with the adhesive strip. Do not detach the strip and paper from the certificate. Fill out the required information on the certificate and don't forget to sign. If you are not mailing or delivering your ballot in person, make sure both you and the bearer of the ballot sign your name and address on the certificate and return envelope. After that, just place it in the mailbox and your vote will be counted. For more information, you can visit our website at www.hudsoncountyclerk.org or www.hudsoncountyNJ.org.
Welcome back to Stick at Night. I'm Commissioner Romano. Let's continue our discussion with Tyree Oredein from Left Turn Village. Go ahead, T.
Close. Oredein. Like, are you a teacher? Oredein. But as far as the community, I think both are equally troubled as far as finding acceptance. In a sense, maybe the older population is a little bit more because they don't have as many resources. And a lot of times as you get older, the people that you were leaning on passed away or they moved on. And so they may not have as much social support. And also a lot of them may not be out because they've been closeted their entire lives. And so it might be difficult for them to feel comfortable coming out if they're in nursing homes or coming out to their healthcare providers. Whereas youth, on the other hand, they're more likely to be able to find other resources. It's not saying that they have it easy, but they're much more in tune with technology. They're much more able to tap into networks on Facebook and TikTok and all these other social media platforms. They're much more likely to be able to meet up with each other. So while of course they have difficulties, it's unique. So there's certain challenges that the youth have, obviously, that the seniors don't, and vice versa. So with youth, though, I mean, there's the issue with their families. Are their families accepting them? Have their families kicked them out? Are their families abusing them? So it's important to realize that even within the LGBTQ community, there's still this concept of intersectionality. So you're a member of the community and you are an older person. You're a member of the community and you are a young person. You are a member of the community and you are Black or Muslim or Asian or disabled, or maybe and all of those things. And so there's these additional things, there's these additional struggles that these multiplicative struggles, these multiplicative challenges and oppressions that one person might end up facing because they're a member of so many different minority communities, where they may not necessarily have a lot of power or resources to be able to mitigate the situations in which they find themselves. So, whether it's their age or their gender, their race, their religion, ability status, or even citizenship status. If somebody's undocumented and a member of the community, imagine what are the challenges that they're going to end up facing.
T, question
Yep.
I have too also in reference to, do you feel that for years the LGBTQ communities more or less were hidden, and now because of all the activism that there isn't that many people in the closet anymore?
There's still a lot of people in the closet. In general, there's a lot more visibility with respect to the LGBTQ community. Yes. But just because other people are out doesn't mean that, let's say, I would be comfortable coming out. Maybe in my family, in my community, in my neighborhood, maybe I would get killed. Maybe I would get jumped. Maybe I would be kicked out of my home. So I might not feel comfortable coming out, even though there's so many people that are out on TV, out in the media. There's a lot more LGBT storylines. And because the LGBT community, it's still something that's otherized. right? It's still not considered to be normative. While we do see some, like I've seen a lot more same-sex couples in mainstream commercials, which is beautiful. And while that does give a sense of normalcy, that does give a sense of community and visibility, it may not necessarily comfort somebody enough to feel safe coming out, especially in like certain ethnic communities, in like a lot of Caribbean communities, Black communities, certain like Latino communities, and a lot of minority communities. There's a lot of anti-LGBT sentiments.
Really?
And so, I'm sorry?
Really? I was surprised.
Yeah, yeah. A lot of music is very anti-gay. A lot of comedians make a lot of anti-gay, anti-trans jokes. And so, and this is one of the issues that a lot of people of color within the community face, because oftentimes they feel like you have to choose a community. You have to choose a struggle. You either have to be gay or you have to be a person of color, but you can't be both in essence. Because in the POC community, you are not accepted for being a member of the LGBT community. You're kicked out, you're called the F words, you're called the T words, you're called, all these slurs and pejoratives. But then in the LGBT community, you are left out if you are a person of color. Because the issues that affect the overall LGBT community don't always, well, let me rephrase. The advocacy from within the LGBTQ community does not often reflect the needs of people of color within the LGBTQ community. So they're very high level goals. So an example would be, the law that allows you to change your gender identity, your gender marker on your birth certificate and things of that nature, without the Babs-Cipperstein law. So without the need of the doctors, and that's an amazing thing. That is awesome. However, that is not something that a lot of people of color in the community are concerned with, because while it's great that if you're trans, you can get your gender marker changed, you can also have the non-binary demarcation on your ID. If you don't have the money to file the forms, much less the money to get to the court to have that done, much less if you are worried about where you're going to sleep that night, where you're going to eat, if you're worried about getting your medication because you're HIV positive, or for whatever other health issues that you have, you getting your gender marker changed is not on your radar right now. So a lot of members.
You've really been informative. I mean, I've opened my eyes to some of the most important issues in the LGBTQ community. So, I mean, we can continue. I mean, you're an amazing wealth of information, and I'm really glad that you came on the show, and hope we can have another interview with you. And the next one is going to be in this chair at the studio.
I'll be there.
But let's continue this discussion. It's important. It impacts especially the large LGBTQ community in Hudson County, especially Jersey City and Hoboken. I'm your Hudson County Commissioner, Anthony L Romano. I thank you so much for listening in, and for Tyree, for you to be on the show. And hope to see you again. Thank you.